Hello and welcome to another beehiiv Jumpstart Your Journey webinar. I'm your host, EJ White. Tony's laughing because that's like the most energetic intro I think I've given to any of these. And Tony's the producer. He's the voice in my head. I'm talking to myself. I'm not actually talking to myself. It's great to have you here on this beautiful Friday. I'm calling you from Brooklyn. Would love to see where people are viewing from today in the chat. Before we jump in, I want to set the expectations of what the session is going to be about today. So these Jumpstart journeys are very practical intensives. We have our webinars about growth topics. We have our collaboration webinars each week with special guests who come in and can give specific feedback and advice and tactical. Today, the purpose is to get you up and running with beehiiv, introduced to the platform so that you are best positioned to take full advantage and succeed with the platform. So with that being said, this will really be most useful if you follow along in the screen. You can set it up side by side or at least have a way to follow along in your own account. Also, with what we're covering, we're going to go through most of the paid features as well. And so if you have not yet started that free trial, I don't know that we flipped a switch to give it to everyone automatically quite yet. So if you did sign up on a launch plan and you have not yet started your trial, highly recommend that you do that so that you can see everything that we're gonna cover today. The last thing I'll say is that, again, it's going to be super interactive. Love to get feedback and see you guys posting in the chat. While you're doing that, I would love to see where people are at on their journey. If you could just post whether you're starting a new newsletter, you're migrating an existing newsletter, what your goals are. You're trying to just inform people and put more positivity out in the world. You're trying to make some money. All goals are valid. Would love to hear that. And then how many subscribers you have. Whether you're launching, just looking, or migrating, how many subscribers, and what are your goals? If you drop those in the chat, will be great. We'll take a look at those and be able to understand how the ebb and the flow of the presentation should go so we can tailor this to your needs. Covered intros. I'm EJ. I'm the head of growth at beehiiv. First employee, been there, done that. We've had a team now of about 90. We're growing. We plan to be at the peak continue to climb our way to the top of this industry. We're kicking butt, taking names, and we show up every day. We want it. We're hungry, and we're hungry to serve you guys. We want to be the best because we want to serve the best, give the best tools to our customers, and empower you guys to be successful. I'm going to basically start sharing my screen, and it's going to basically walk you through this. I'm going to be working in an account that I've already set up completely. It's a newsletter that I somewhat run. I don't run it actively, but it's got real data in the platform and it's got all the features unlocked and everything like that. So you'll be able to see what an account looks like that has been fully configured and has sent some newsletters and has had some growth. We're going to start with the settings and making sure that we're setting the foundation properly. We're going to go from settings into the editor. We're going to explain the different aspects of the editor. We're going to move from the editor into the sending settings. So once you've written, it's very linear. So setting up the account, writing your first post, sending your first post, and then from there, we'll go through all of the different features around your audience, your growth, your monetization, and even design. And so with that, I'm going to get started. When you get into your account, this is probably super familiar. All of you have been into an account. When you log in, this is what you're going to see. This just gives you a quick overview of everything that you are doing in your account. So active subscribers, overall open rate, and overall click-through rate based on this dropdown over time. So I'm going to move it to all time just so you can see a little bit more data. But yeah, once you have some data in here, this is what this will look like. You can scroll in here to see the growth, where your growth has come from, beehiiv sources, so things that we've built that nobody else has that are driving growth. And then these are going to be other sources. So other would be like Facebook, these are Instagram ads and these are Facebook ads. So these are coming from external sources. They're signing up on the website, as opposed to the referral program, recommendations, and magic links are all things that are part of the beehiiv special sauce growth suite. And that might be what we call it from now on. So from here, you can see a quick view of your recent posts, ad opportunities that you may have waiting for you, your streak badge. Unfortunately, sad newsletter operator noises. I don't have any streak here, random resources, tutorials, and so forth. Up here, we also have these tabs where you can drill down on some of these different metrics. So audience is going to give you a view of your audience and give you these charts of audience growth over time. Engagement, similarly, is going to give you details around your top posts in this very quick high-level view. We have a bunch of different places where the analytics show up, and this is just one of them. You can sort by open rate and click-through rate just to see which ones are performing best, top-line metrics. And then lastly, we have our monetization view. where you can currently see your paid subscription revenue, boost revenue, and soon you'll have a chart basically layered in here for ad revenue if you choose to use the ad network. So we'll get into some of what those things mean. If you're not really quite sure what those mean at the moment, don't worry, all will be made clear in time. Before we jump into the exact settings, I'm going to show you what we're working with today. So this is a website using our old editor. I'll show you a little preview of our beta web builder. I don't have a website built on that. I don't have a full website built in there yet, but we can do the quick and dirty overview there. But Vacation Voyeur is the name of the newsletter that we'll be reviewing today. Again, this is the old version, the very kind of templated version of our website builder, but very snappy, very quick. If I click these buttons, it loads pretty much instantaneously. Great for SEO, very dynamic, images, classic headlines, shareable. I have these different sections that are hideable or showable, depending on whether you're a premium subscriber or not. We have all of this stuff. Pop-ups to gather subscribers when people are reading your content. An ad. So this is like an ad placement. Again, only going to be shown to users who are free users. Paid users obviously pay for the privilege of viewing this and reading this ad-free. Very flexible in terms of visualizing all of the stuff. We have our polls here. We have embeds for all of the major social media networks that have a API for accessing posts through their platforms. So that includes Blue Sky, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Of course, we have comments so people can engage and collaborate with each other, and you can engage and work with them. The different little things that are going to keep users on the site continue engaging through these keep readings, and then obviously a natural footer. Just give you an idea of kind of what fully fleshed out design along with some content might look like. And with that, we'll get started. We'll jump back into the dashboard and go to settings. So from the top, when you have an account, we have a little bit of a structure that is worth talking about. So when you create an account, you will automatically have a workspace that owns your initial publication. And this workspace is where additional publications, if you create more than one, will live. And so it's like the umbrella organization that owns these newsletters. And so with that, there are specific settings that you can modify here. So your workspace name, typically the name of the company. So in this case, this is like a freelance entity that I used to operate. Global footer. And then these are all of the newsletters that are part of this specific workspace. From here, we can go and we can add users to the team. So with just an email, you can set permission levels. So you can add them to a workspace or a specific publication. You can give them one of three roles: admin, member, or contributor. The specific permissions are defined here, but essentially contributor is the most restrictive. They can write posts, they can draft and basically write emails, but they can't send them or access any personal data. Members have access to all functionality except for admin permissions up here. And then admins have access to billing, exporting data, integrations, and adding team members. So you can do those at a publication level, or you can do it at the workspace level. Obviously, the workspace level is a bit more expansive. An admin for the workspace, for example, would be the highest level of permission that owners have by default. When you're ready to upgrade your plan, you'll come to this billing section. We're going to show you last payment, next payment, when that's happening, what your tier is. You're going to just click here to upgrade when you're ready. You'll have a modal that pops up that allows you to choose which plan is right for you based on your subscribers and the desired features. And if you ever need to update your billing info, you can do so here. Lastly, for those who are a little bit more technical, maybe running larger newsletters, maybe like our folks who might be integrating beehiiv with a third-party platform like a WordPress site, we have a very full functional API that you can plug into either directly if you're a developer or through no-code tools like Make and Zapier. That can be, those API keys can be created here, and then you can find the required publication IDs down here. API version 2 is the current one. Version 1 is deprecated. We should probably make a note of that. All of our documentation for these different tools notes that you should use version 2. I'm just saying it right now that version 2 is the one that matters. From there, we get into the specifics of your newsletter. This is more of the exciting part. So general info, pretty straightforward. I'm not going to patronize you guys. You got publication name, your description, your logos, default thumbnail. This is what's going to show up by default if you don't set a manual thumbnail. Content tags just describe your newsletter, help us sort you when you're doing recommendations or when we're provisioning ad opportunities. Default time zone, obviously where you live. Default button text for the subscribe buttons. You can edit this to your whatever you want it to be. once you're in the design kind of section, but this will just be the default. We do also have the ability to make your content more private. So say you're building this for a PTA or you're building this for a business where you're doing investor updates and you don't want anybody in the world to be able to see this content. You can turn on this private publication toggle, and that will mean only people who are on the list, on the subscriber list, will be able to view this content, and nobody else will be able to subscribe. If you want people to be able to request approval, meaning they submit their email, but they don't see any content until they're approved, you would check this button. And that means that they're going to show up in a state where you have to manually check a button that says, yes, allow this person to see the content. Otherwise, they're going to completely just get a screen that says this is a private publication. You don't have access to it. Under private branding, if you are on our max plan, we do give the ability to toggle this, which removes those powered by beehiiv badges. Lastly, in these settings, if you are more marketing minded, we have the ability to basically set defaults for these UTM parameters. These are just tracking parameters that get deployed on the website version of your publication posts. If you have something you want to put here that's more specific, you can. By default, for all users, these are turned on and using best practices filled with defaults, in this case being your publication website URL, and then the UTM medium being newsletter, and the campaign being the URL-friendly version of your post name. Cool. Just checking the chat real quick. Throwback Gaming, we will get to that. I'm not going to get into the specifics of how to do that. But I will show kind of some of I'm not going to do a tutorial on like how to make that specific interaction, but I will show how those things work. And cool, we'll get moving. So next up is the email settings. So here you're going to set your sender name. So this is when somebody's in the inbox, this is what they're going to see in Gmail or Apple Mail or whatever they're using. Reply to address allows you to set an address where if they reply to the email, this is where it goes. Email footer details, again, this is just very similar to what we showed at the workspace level, but if you do want to make specifics for the email, you can. By default, this will be your workspace settings. Lastly, there's a couple different preset emails that you can modify here. One is the default welcome email that's accessible to all users. We do have a additional way to set like welcome emails through our automations tool. So if you do plan on being on the launch plan long-term or until you reach the limits, you may want to set up a welcome email here. If you do plan on upgrading, you may want to just start in the automation section, but everybody has the ability to set a autoresponder for when users subscribe for the first time. To edit this email, you'll just click configure the welcome email. It'll take you into an editor. You can flip the switch. Double opt-in is another popular concept within email marketing. It basically is going to provide users with the opportunity to actively click a button to confirm their subscription to your email list. If you don't want to turn this off, you can just flip this toggle right here. If you do want double opt-in on, which results in generally a cleaner list and a more engaged audience at the expense of some growth, because some people just won't respond to it. You can turn that on here, and the opt-in email that they receive with the button that says click here to confirm your subscription, you can edit right here. The smart nudge option here is in response to allowing people to be able to like just nudge them. The users who don't click that confirmation button, smart nudge will send them an additional reminder 48 hours after their initial subscription if they have not clicked that active button. It's just a one-time thing. If they've ignored both of those opt-in emails, then they're considered going to be pending indefinitely and will not be added to your list because they have not actively opted in. That's only if you have this toggle checked on. Somebody asked about importing WordPress content. You're going to do that under this content import tab here. We support automated imports for these 4 platforms. If you click other, it'll tell you that we don't yet have access to those. But if you're coming from Substack, MailChimp, WordPress, or Ghost, you can just click one button and pull all your content in. Similarly, by default, you'll have an option to import subscribers. By default, you have 10. By completing a verification, an automated verification, you can expand that from 10 to 10,000. If, for example, you're like Anita and you need more than 10,000, you need 25,000, there's a form here where you can submit a little bit of information and our team will review it in a very timely manner and, as appropriate, raise that import limit. This is a security feature to make sure that spammers can't just come in and upload their lists and hit and run. This will show you your list of historical imports. If you ever want to leave for any reason, we don't hold your data hostage. You can export everything, your subscribers, your posts. You control all of your payments data through your Stripe account. We don't set up a Stripe account for you that you are stuck with us. Everything is completely portable. You can take it wherever you want. You can bring it, take it, all good there. Very popular option here, setting up your custom domain. We actually have a really cool automated feature that once you put in the domains that you want for these custom domains, we have a tool that we've partnered with that will literally, like with one click, you just SSO into your hosting provider, GoDaddy or Squarespace or whoever, and we will set all of those DNS records for you with just a couple clicks. So just follow the instructions on the screen, and this process is really done for you. This is a very popular section. Tony, if you can drop in our documentation for custom domains, just in case there's anything that people have questions about. Our documentation here is really comprehensive because, again, this is one of the areas that people have the most questions about. And up until about 3 or 4 months ago, this was a manual process. And so we had very good documentation on how users could do this manually. Now the documentation is very much overkill because 90% of it's done through this automated tool. Cool. Moving on to webhooks. Again, if you are a development-minded person working with Make or Zapier, you may want to set up webhooks to further connect your beehiiv account to other platforms. API allows you to reach into your beehiiv account and read data. Webhooks allow your beehiiv account to push data to other places. So, for example, this webhook that's set up when a user subscribes, beehiiv will ping whatever that external endpoint is. This is a feature of our paid plans. API is on our free plan. So just as you set up this, if you integrate this, just have that awareness. Payment accounts, once you start working with things like boosts or premium subscriptions or ad network, you'll be able to manage your Stripe payment accounts and your Stripe accounts here. And then if you have content that you want to share with your users via an RSS feed, we do generate RSS feeds that you can share. If you turn this on, by default, it'll show up on your website. Otherwise, you can copy this URL and you can send it to whoever wants to access your content via RSS. Our Max plan also contains a feature to pull in data from an RSS feed and basically auto-populate your content within the editor, and you'll set up those RSS feeds here. So very popular use case for big, like enterprise level news companies, where if you're publishing your news to one website and an RSS feed, they basically pipe those news stories to their newsletter, so they don't have to obviously recreate those formats in both places. That's not the only use case. There's a bunch, but if RSS to content is something you need, that's where the settings are. So this moves through quick overview of the settings, and this will be very par for the course for the rest of this presentation. Don't spend a lot of time on each section. It's more to orient folks with where everything is. I don't know personally what everybody's interested in and where people might have challenges. So the idea here is basically go through everything, and folks who are interested and have questions or I wonder where this feature is, they can basically latch on and say, okay, cool, I know now where that feature is and I can go find it and work with it in the future. I know I'm going really quickly. It's also because we usually run out of time with these because there's a lot to cover. But I'm going to take a pause, take a breath, grab some water, take a sip of my espresso. If you have any questions and you want to drop them in the chat, or maybe Tony can look at the Q&A and see if there's any questions that are relevant for me to cover now. And to that point, Tony, if there are ones that I will cover with the editor or features, we can save those. But if there's anything that's relevant to what I've shared, I'm happy to take a little bit of a pause and answer some questions. Understood. So I'm told that there's a good number of very specific questions about, specific interactions that people are having within the platform. If you come up here to this help button, it's just app.beehiiv.com/help. This is where a lot of our documentation lives, as well as the ability to create a ticket for our live support if you're either on that free trial or on a paid plan. So if you do have something that requires a real live person, live support, you can do this. They respond very quickly. Otherwise, we have our AI chatbot, our knowledge base, which basically is like our documentation of the entire platform. We have our blogs. This is our newsletter operators course, our glossary if you're confused about, maybe you see a term that you're not sure about, our product updates, the different features we've added, and whether we are up or not in terms of if there's any outages. So basically we spend a lot of time creating content. We have 10 writers who are publishing articles every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. We have a full-time guy who builds the tutorials for us on our YouTube channel. I do these webinars weekly. I do usually 3 a week, and other folks on our team do 2 others. So usually we're doing like 3 to 5 a week. There's an ability, if there's a term that's not included here, you can submit it and we'll get you a definition. There's a lot of value here. Again, our CEO publishes these product updates. We launch features every 2 weeks or so. We've never gone more than 4 weeks. Sometimes it's been as often as once a week, every week. And we've kept up that pace for the last 3+ years. I think 38 months we've been around. You can continue to expect that level of service and performance. Worth also noting, I guess, here, some of these items up here. So we before we move into the actual editor itself. We did cover the dashboard. We have the help button up here. This globe icon will take you to your website. This is how I got there a few minutes ago when I wanted to show you the website. We have this notifications bell that'll just show you some of the things that you may want to know, things like ad placements, like when ad offers are available to you, we'll show them here. The other thing is when we have things like boost, like a boost offer has been extended or something like that. I wonder why that's happening. It might be because I'm on my admin account. Either way, that's where those notifications are. If you want to edit your personal info, so you can come here, you can add your personal socials, you can add a little bio and first name, last name, and an image. These are what power your author byline widget, which we'll cover in a minute when we see that in the editor. Account security, this is where you can change passwords and whatnot. Notification preferences, if you do want to turn off the emails that we send based on the different things that are happening in your account. Again, quick links to these learning tutorials, visiting your site, logging out, and you guys won't have that. That's only cool. We'll get into Wallet when we cover the paid features. Lastly, if you do love beehiiv and you end up loving beehiiv, we do have a referral program where we will share 50% of commissions for 12 months on any customer you send us. Those users the people you refer receive that 30-day free trial, as well as 20% off if they upgrade. They get 20% off for 3 months. And this is just the base offer. When you you start off on the launch tier, you go from bronze to silver to gold. On our gold tier, you can actually earn up to 60% of that revenue for a year. So really lucrative referral program if that's your thing. If you end up liking beehiiv, there's ways that you can subsidize either the cost or even make some money by spreading the good word. We're getting ahead of ourselves though. Let's get you into the publishing mood before we talk about sharing beehiiv. So when you go to write a post, there's a couple ways you can get in here. So from the dashboard, you can just click start writing, or if you have a template set up, you can click here to start from a template. I'm going to start from a template because there's a couple that I've set up here. So if I click on that, it's just going to create a new post that's going to be pre-filled with the content that I have saved into my template. If I were to not do a template, if I just came here and said start writing from a blank post, my editor is going to be completely empty. So just to give you guys, I want to be able to cover all of the different widgets we have. I'm going to start from a template. We're going to use this default 2.1 template. I just named it default 2.1. You can name it whatever you want. Don't worry, this error is just because there was an ad that was saved within this template and it's saying that ad is no longer valid, which is true. When you get into a new post, you're going to see basically this experience. You're going to have your space for your title. This is what's going to show up on the website. This is also going to be the default for your subject line. You can always change it. The subtitle is going to be empty, but this is where you can add a subtitle. It's going to show up beneath the header. And this is what's going to be the default for your preview text. And then you're going to have the author, which is going to be just the default user who is starting the post. To the left here, you'll see these eyeballs. These just indicate visibility settings. So if you click on any of them, it'll show you what the visibility setting is set to. In this case, we're saying it's showing an email is turned on. So it means that we're going to show this title in the email. So I'll say this is a title. This is a subtitle. And we're actually going to switch this visibility from off to on. So very simple. If I hit the preview button, it's going to pull up this view that allows me to see what the newsletter looks like in real time. So in this case, I have the desktop version here. This is a title. This is a subtitle. I have the mobile version here. This is my profile. This is that byline I was referencing in those author settings. And so if I click this, it'll take me to my Twitter account. The other place those show up is there's like an authors tab on your website that you can deploy if you want to have a gallery of all of your authors. Either way, you can see that with that email, you can see those headlines. Usually for my posts, I'll hide those. So I'm actually going to hide all three. Those visibility settings off. And there's a reason why I'm going into the visibility, because visibility, there's actually much deeper stuff we can do with this. But now you can see that those, because they're off, we're hiding them in the post. If I want to add a thumbnail that'll show up on the website, custom thumbnail, I can do so here. I can upload from the gallery, or I can upload a new one. I'm just going to use this one that I used on a past post that shows up there. And then this one is going to be your content tags. Content tags aid in discovery. We deploy pages as well as filters for this. Say somebody comes to my site and they want to search for all of my posts about yachts. They can filter by yachts because I've tagged this post with the yacht content tag. And that's how we set up the intro or the beginning of a post. And then we're ready to start writing. From there, what we can do is we jump into, delete this ad section because that is no longer relevant. we can jump into the editor and you can see the type / to browse options. And I'm going to do that. So when I hit / it's going to pull up this widget palette. And this is going to show you all of the different widgets that you can use. I'm not going to go into all of them. Many of them are fairly self-explanatory. We'll show you what those look like in a few minutes when we get to the design lab. But you have all of the different things you can deploy with one click into your newsletter right here. So if you want to do embeds for social media, you can do that. If you have an advertisement with one click, you can drop the ad in. If you have your referral program set up, you can drop in the referral program with one click and so forth. Play around with these. Headings obviously are going to drop in bigger headings as opposed to body text or paragraph text. And then most of these are more or less like styling things. Yeah, we can just start writing. So I'll do heading that I hit the / which opens the palette. And then if I start typing, it's going to actually filter this list. So I can really quickly get to that heading that I want. So this is a heading. This is some text. So as we scroll down, we see I've dropped an image here. I have our table of contents widget right here. This is actually just an image within a section. So sections allow you to group widgets together. We had a question about sections, so I'll cover this just real quick. In this case, we have an image that I dropped in here, and I've grouped it within a section of text up here. So these are together. And the value is that if I come over here to this menu, I can actually change the visual settings of the section, which allows me to create really interesting visual experiences. In this case, I added a border on the top and the bottom, and that border color is black. I was able to also change the background from, it's normally like that cream color, to white. So you may be looking at this and asking yourself, wow, this looks plain. There doesn't really seem to be much styling here. What's going on? That's because when we launched the company, we made the deliberate decision with our design system to separate the visual design from the actual drafting process. One of the things that we experienced before starting the company with all of these email tools is that often you are writing the content at the same time as designing the content. And so if you're coming from something like MailChimp, this is very common, where it's like you have just the entire thing, you see it as it is, and while you're writing, you may be messing with the padding, and then you come back and then you've written more and that messes up something else. And the way that we've designed this, because newsletters tend to be commonly very long form and we're a newsletter first platform, we've actually separated the design from the actual writing experience. So the editor itself, you're just going to be adding the content. And then in our design settings, this is where you're going to be adding all of the styling. And those get combined when it comes to generating the preview and when you actually send. In this case, if we're looking at the email, we can look at desktop first. In this case, let's look at it on the web. So this is web, desktop. We can see here that this is that the background is white. We have the border, and then these are just like different. This is just a link, so I have the link set so that it's this color. But essentially, you can see with those very simple visibility settings, we can create these visually interesting experiences. So again, if I scroll down, I wanted to pull attention to this ad widget as well. So again, I set the background I used a section to add some text to the ad widget. So above the ad widget, group them all in a section and then set the settings specifically. We can also, within those menus, make visibility settings specifically for different platforms and different placements. If you want some element to only show up in the email and not on web, you can do that here. And that's what I did in this case. I have one version that shows up in the email, and I have this other version that shows up only on the web. I also have another 2 versions that show up only on email and only on web, but only to free or only to paid subscribers. So in this case, with these 4 different widgets, which I was very easily able to make by just clicking the duplicate button, I can create, by sending one email, unique experiences for people on web, people on the email, people who are on my free plan, and people who are on my paid plan. And so just demonstrates the kind of the flexibility of those experiences that you can create. Instead of having to send 4 different emails or editing a web page versus editing the email, our design system plus our editor tools allowed you to create these very robust experiences. So that is just a very high level intro into visibility settings, visual settings. But yeah, there's so much more. I could do an entire session on the editor itself, but just take a look around and play around. The key point is, if this sounds complex and confusing, is to really start simple and become more advanced through addition. So just write content with what you're comfortable. And then if you get to a point where you feel like you want to make something a little bit more complex, experiment with it. You don't have to go from 0 to 100 immediately, but I do like to display what is possible down the road. is incredibly flexible. There are pretty much no designs that we can't replicate through either a combination of the design lab itself, which we'll cover in a few minutes, and the editor inside the platform. So outside of the actual content experience, you have a couple of these buttons up here. One, I mentioned SEO before. We have the ability to place backlinks to your archive of content very easily. So the way you do that would be two of these square brackets opens up this. It's going to give you access to your list of posts, and you can just drop them in, edit the backlink, and you're good to go. We'll get into what custom tags are, but if you're collecting custom data about your users, you can actually insert that and customize your newsletter with these curly braces. Two of them will open the tag. You add the name of the custom tag here, a pipe, there's just a vertical icon. The pipe is then able to define like a default. So we can say friend and then close it with two curly braces. So I could say something like hi, and I collect first name, but then I can default it to friend if I don't have their first name. So I go to the preview, I can actually simulate subscribers. So this is going to be showing me what the web version is going to look like to my free subscribers. Let's see what the email is going to look like, for example, if I send it to myself. So I send it to myself, because I've collected my own name, it's going to say hi EJ instead of hi friend. But by default, it says hi friend. So just a very simple way that you can use custom tags to personalize emails. There's a million different ways you can do it, but that's the simplest one. If you are working with a team, we also have very robust supports for collaboration. So if you highlight anything in the editor, you have this icon right here. You can actually leave a content or a comment, just like Google Sheets or Google Docs. If you hit the button, it'll show you a list of your teammates. If you tag them, it'll email them, let them know that there's a comment waiting for them. Once I drop a comment, I can either access it. It shows that it's a comment because it's underlined here, and then I get the notification up here. I can view them in this pane. I can resolve them. I can reply to them. I can delete them, everything you would expect. The next item here is your version history. So again, just like Google Docs, if you feel like you write something and you rewrite it completely and you realize, wait, I went in the wrong direction, I hate it, you can come to this version history and you'll be able to see those past versions of the newsletter that you wrote. If you ever want to revert those changes, if you have like a freelancer or something who doesn't do the right thing, you can always come back, you select the right version, you see the preview here, and then you just hit the restore button to get it back. Once you have a great template that you like, if you don't want to start from scratch every time, sometimes duplicating past posts can be annoying because it's going to pull in the same settings as you had for that previous send. You can actually save your posts as a template, which is what I did at the beginning where I used like the default 2.1, default 2.2. You can do that by naming your template here and then hitting the save button. Lastly, these settings are going to take us to your newsletter design lab. And so what this is going to do is going to show you a visualization of all of the different elements that are accessible within the newsletter with your current settings. And so you can get a visualization of what your newsletter will look like from the email side of things, not on the website, because the web is a separate design system. But this is your email newsletter. By accessing the different elements here in this menu, you can come in and edit those. So if I wanted to edit the button, I can just find one of these button elements. Say instead of making them orange, I want to make them black. I change it to black. It's going to change to black here. I can see what it looks like. Easy peasy. Cool. So that's the editor itself. We have a ton of comments since I scrolled down last. Producer Tony, before I move on to, I'm actually going to be in that same view. Before I move on to the actual sending settings, what are some of the questions that I should address that maybe you haven't tackled yet, or is there anything that I should address? Oh, you're muted, by the way. What kind of permissions? Yeah, so again, that's going to be under so the question is some questions around user permissions. Again, that's going to be under the settings tab, under your team settings for your workspace. It always takes a little long because I'm streaming. There we go. Under team, you're going to come in here and just invite new user. Again, you can set the permission levels. They explain exactly the permissions that users will have. Why am I frozen? Okay, I'm no longer frozen. Good. Sorry if you guys can hear that siren, the worst. All right. This is where you set the permissions. You can choose what role you want. Again, contributor is they can just edit a post. Member is going to have access to all the features. Admin is going to have access to billing and adding team members. Cool. Where did I get that hat? My girlfriend is from Finland, and it's a traditional Finnish hat that she had in her room that I put on one night and really liked it, and it's super warm and comfy. Cool. Replay. Yes, Brian, a replay of this. All of these sessions are recorded and accessible on our blog, which Tony's already taken care of. I'm being redundant. Okay, cool. Sweet. All right, moving on. If we go back to our post, so we've drafted a post, we're ready to send. So now we're going to go through this process of sending an email. We're going to hit next, which is going to take us to the next step of the thing. Again, we're ignoring this because this is just on my account because I have an ad that I saved as a template. Go away. That's a reload. Sorry. Actually, I was already here. Perfect. All right. So next, audience tab. This is where you're going to set who you want to deliver your post to and where you want it posted. So I mentioned at the beginning, we also, like, our platform is a newsletter first platform for delivering high performance, dynamic, high engagement newsletters. But as part of that, we're all about facilitating the growth of your content. And that's why we have the website and we have the web side of things. If you are publishing content via an email, the only people who can see that content are the people who receive that email. And so in order to have that content be accessible after you send the email the first time, we allow you to also have a version of it hosted on the web. This means that you can share it on socials, you can be discovered by search engines and into perpetuity, etc. This is something that we've invested heavily in and are by far in the newsletter space, the leaders. There's no other email platform that has, even in the current form of this web builder, nearly as powerful tools as us. And actually, yesterday we launched in beta our full web builder, which competes with companies like Webflow, Wix, those sorts of things, Card, and by far will soon be the most powerful web builder in the market once we get it out of beta and develop it a little bit. But essentially, that's why we have both here. We are a newsletter platform, but we're all about the holistic uses that our users take, which tend to be creators, businesses who are trying to not just send emails, but also trying to build digital audiences. From here, you can select who you want your post to go to. If you want it to go only to email, you would, under the email tab, select your audience. If you want it to go only to the web and not to any email subscribers, you would uncheck those and only click these. If you have premium subscriptions set up, you can then define like whether they should go to premium subscribers. Most of the time, you'll basically check all of these boxes, and this is going to basically send to all free subscribers, all paying subscribers, post to the web to all free subscribers, and post to the web to all premium subscribers. The other common use case is if you are running a premium newsletter or paid newsletter, say that your users who get the premium version get their email, they get an extra email on Sundays or something like that. You would come in here and all you would do is just uncheck the free subscribers button here and the free subscribers button here. And now when you send this, it's going to go to a much smaller crowd, only your paying users. You might be thinking about the web version. If somebody comes to the web version and it's a paid only post, they're going to get a paywall that says you must pay to access this content or log in. And if they are a premium user, they can just log in and they'll have full access. If they are a free user, they will be prompted to upgrade to access it. So we have a full upgrade flow and tools to basically manage that process that we'll get into at the very end, but you'll be taken care of there. Moving from audience to email, because we've selected email as one of the media that we want to send it over, we'll have settings here. This is where you can set your subject line. So if I change this to gobbledygook, then if I'm like, that's a terrible subject line, I can actually hit this button and it'll just reset to my initial post title. I can also run A/B tests. So say this is a title and this is not a title, Borat style. You can do that. And this is going to send both versions to your audience. It's going to figure out which one's the more engaging one by open rate. And then it's going to send, after this time period goes over, it's going to send the winning version to the remaining percentage. So in this case, after 1 hour, it's going to look at whichever one performed better. And it's going to send the winner to the remaining 90% of your list. Here we can choose to whether we want to show the social share buttons on the email as well as the like and comments button on the email. So these are turned off for me by default. So if I go to the preview and I look at my email, we'll just look at the one on mobile, they're turned off. But if I come in here and turn them on, again, you can do this yourself. They're going to show up here. So these are the like, comment, and then social share buttons up here. And these are not your these are not your icons. These are, if a user clicks this, it's going to take them to their Facebook account or their X account. So it doesn't matter whether you've added these accounts to your profile. These are just going to show up because they're the ones that allow a clickable share. So we'll turn this back off. Oh, one thing that sometimes comes up, we cover this a lot when we have Connor join us, who's our onboarding support specialist. If you are just starting out and you haven't posted a post yet, you may go to your website and you basically can only access like a screen that just says, welcome, sign up, basically. It has your name, your description, and a sign up form. And no matter what you do, if you go to your main URL, it's always going to redirect you back to that subscribe URL. So the difference here being like, this is my main URL, and then this is like the subscribe URL. By default, it would like always redirect you here. That's because you don't have a post published yet. as soon as you post your first post to the web, you don't have to show this let me read it first button, but it will then allow people to go directly to the archive. But some people ask that question, especially in the beginning. They're like, I can't get my main URL. It's always redirect. So all right. So moving from the email settings to the web settings, and that web settings is what triggered that in my mind. You can edit your post URL. So if you're SEO minded or you want something that looks aesthetic, you can change the slug here to whatever you want it to be. This is the post thumbnail. You can change it if you want. The pop-up, you can set these settings globally in terms of the advanced email capture and comments, but say you don't have the global setting for pop-ups turned on, but you want this specific post to have pop-ups, you can set that. If you have a global setting for pop-ups, but you don't want this one to have one, you can turn it to none. And then gated is a third version where when they hit the page, they're not going to be able to read the post until they submit their email. So it's almost like a paywall, but it's just asking them for an email. It's not requiring them to pay or anything like that. Similarly, you can set your comment settings here. You can allow all subscribers to comment, only paid ones. You can hide them completely. Or if they get out of hand, you can lock them. Here are the SEO settings. You can change your meta title, meta description, see what it's going to look like in the search engine. We also allow you to customize separately the open graph and basically the Twitter tags that allow you to customize what it's going to look like on social. So if you are optimizing for search engine optimization, like usually is done in a very specific purview of like trying to target a specific keyword. But like social tends to work better if it's a little bit mysterious or clickbaity. And so you may want to have your search engine optimized title set here, but then you can also set something that's going to play a little bit more on engagement for social down here, and you can see what those posts are going to look like. Lastly, if you don't want to, by default, all of your posts are going to show up in the archive, which is right here. If you don't want your post to show up on the archive, you can select to hide it from the feed. This is going to still be accessible by the URL. So you could send it to someone, they can access it directly, but it will not show up on the archive feed. Similarly, the opposite of that is if you want to feature it, we showed here my featured posts, you can feature it. So it's going to get that premium placement before the rest of your archive. From here, we're ready to review. The next button is going to just take us to the settings. It's going to say, hey, we're publishing to email and web. This is who we're sending it to. This is the post title, description and whatnot, settings around visibility. And then you may want to, before you do the final, send a draft to a friend, a superior. Just this is going to allow you to copy and send it to anybody. They'll be able to see the web version, exactly how it'll appear to the public before you publish. And then if you want to send a test version to yourself or again to any of those people who might care, you can enter their email here and it'll send a test version of the exact version of what the email will look like. Again, if you want to, by default, it's just going to be your kind of the default version. So that means like referral links are not going to have the dynamic individual user referrals in there. But again, if you wanted to, for example, show somebody what it's going to look like for a specific subscriber, you can do what's called simulation. So in this case, that test email is going to be filled with my personal information. So all of the links will work. It's going to say hi EJ instead of hi friend, et cetera. So assuming all of those tests pass and that you're good to go, you'd hit schedule and that's going to pull up the screen. If you have, I don't actually know why it's not showing up for this one, but usually what'll show up is like a graph that shows like your history of sending and shows you when like the best time to send by engagement is. So you can use that. Again, my account's sometimes weird because one, I have like 30,000 publications and I have a bunch of admin settings. But anyway, you can schedule it if you want. You can set a date in the future, time, whatever, or you can just hit publish now and it'll publish it in this moment. As I said, we're moving along nice and quickly. We're at 55 minutes and I did a nice extended intro and we have moved through the settings. We've moved through setting up a post and going through your sending settings. I see some questions here. Chris, I think, was answered by Tony. Producer Brain, yep, cool. We got that taken care of. And then Sydney, what is this? Let me just move this over. Okay, thanks. Cool. Tony, any other questions that I should address that might be further up in the chat that you haven't gotten to before we move on to the features? They want to create a website from scratch. Yeah, you can do that now in the beta. So right now, one of the features of our Max plan is beta access to tools. I'm not going to get super into how to design these websites now, but I can show you what these settings look like. So you can start from a template of these 3 themes. You don't have to stick with them. You can always start from scratch. I think when we launch to the public, we'll have a blank option, but essentially you click there, you set your basics. These are all being pulled in from my existing account. You pick your fonts, and then this is the web builder, truly completely flexible. We have these default pages that are built into the platform. Some of these are live by default, and some of them, actually, I don't think most of them are live by default, but you can click on any of them and you can see what they look like, edit them. And then, of course, if you want to create completely brand new pages, you can come in here and do that. And this is what the kind of design experience. Oh, because I'm trying to do this, and the slash will be created by default. Okay. So for a new page completely from scratch, you have basically this builder where you can come in and you can add sections. We're going to say, okay, section, we want to have a container in the section. Now we want to put like a image inside there. We have the settings over here. It's very, very much like a true website builder. And of course, again, you don't have to build your entire site with these like blank page tools. If you want to, you can, but the big reason you would use these specific pages is like if you have like a landing page that you want to create that is independent from the rest of it's not a built-in one. So if you have a lead magnet or something, you can build in these pages that you can build true like funnel-like experiences. You can even choose specific pages to hide the nav bars. A lot of times with a funnel, you might not want to show like the navigation bar because it can take people out of the funnel. You can even hide it. Incredibly flexible, really cool. This is just got dummy data for now because it just wants to show like what this could look like. But if I turned off the dummy data, it would pull in my own data. But this is just one of the templates. But again, all of this is flexible. If I don't want this headline, I can just delete and the headline's gone. Command Z, undo, brings it back. Super user friendly. You can see what it's going to look like on mobile, desktop. This is just going to be included in the paid plans. Right now it's on our max plan for beta, like I said, but this is not going to be like an extra upsell or fee. You basically get an entire web builder that's going to be on par with anything else that's out there included in your beehiiv plan. Yeah, so I'm getting two questions. One is about, actually forget the first question. The second question was struggling with growth early on. I actually recommend people check out one of our growth webinars. We actually go through all of the stuff, but it really comes down to if you're starting out from scratch and never started a newsletter before, only thing that matters is finding that content market fit, which is not too terribly different than like product market fit. If you read up like startups or anything, you can just Google product market fit. It's the exact same process. You're understanding and figuring out what content matches which audience and how do I find each of those things. So if you're an experienced writer and you have a very specific voice, how do I find the audience? Where does the audience that's going to appreciate that voice live? If you know who you want to target, creating the content that's going to resonate with that audience, you'll find when you have that product market fit, that content market fit, you'll know that you have it because you will start growing organically without having to really do much aside from publish and maybe share on those specific channels, maybe on social where those people hang out. But you're going to get the feedback that this is incredible. People are going to love it and not be able to help but share it. It's a very simple piece of advice. It's very hard to execute on because, of course, if everyone could just create great content that was going to just explode, the bar would just be that much higher. We'd have to have content that was really, the noise. And in the beginning, that is literally the only thing. And so we recommend publishing consistently and often so you can collect that feedback, publishing on social so you can really understand what your audience wants to hear about and for finding that voice. But all of that advice goes into much more depth in some of our growth webinars. We have one called Growth Secrets, I believe. I might have changed the title, but maybe Tony can drop that in the chat. I have a question from Xavier. Is it still not possible to create a custom page with a boost form for a newsletter you're promoting, then redirect the user after filling out their email to a different website? You can do that now, and you can do that with the new landing pages. The custom page with a boost form, you would have a custom page. You'd use our third party. You'd use the form widget. Somebody lands on the page. The widget pops up. You would have a redirect with that widget that would take them wherever you want to go. That's been available probably now for, I don't know. If you're in this presentation, you're probably you're coming from YouTube, so not necessarily. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hide. You might be an existing long-time user. Yeah, you'd be able to do that. Cool. So we're going to move to the specific features away from posts and now into like our different widgets here. So under audience, we have subscribers, segments, automations, polls, surveys, and subscribe forms. So your subscribers view is going to show you your subscribers. And so by default, you'll be able to see their status. Active means subscribed, inactive means unsubscribed, any tags you've assigned, their tier. So if you have a premium or paid publication, paid subscription, you'll see free versus premium, when they subscribed and how they subscribe to your newsletter. If I click into this user, which is just me, it's going to show you a bunch of data about the user, how you acquire them. I know that's not showing up yet. I'm just talking over when it loads. To show you their history of any interactions they've taken with your newsletter, with posts that you've sent. So in this case, subscribe date, it's going to show all this data, where they came from, all of this stuff, any custom fields I've created about them, and we'll get into exactly what those are in just a minute. But how they've interacted with posts, automations, polls, referrals, any random like administrative emails, different events in terms of upgrades, downgrades, et cetera, and their billing information. And of course, it's going to show you their top line metrics. If you want to do anything with them, we have this menu where you can unsubscribe them, delete them, send them a password reset, add them to an automation, and grant them complimentary paid access. Oops, go back. And again, if I go back to the subscribers page, I can see there's subscribers, custom fields, tags, and preferences. I won't get into preferences here because they're a little bit more of an advanced feature that's not typically used by people who are just starting out. But if you need a preference center in terms of you want people to be able to you send daily, but you want people to opt out to be receiving only once a week, that'd be a use of the preference center. Tony can drop that documentation. As far as custom fields go, this is where you'd collect personal information. So if you want something like a first name, last name, I use this in my subscribe survey, so I can use that data for advertisers. But this is just going to be that where you go here, create a custom field, a bunch of different data types, name it, and then you can use that in in surveys, and you can access them in segmentation to filter your audience. You can also use them within the newsletter to personalize. Segmentation is super powerful. It's a way you can basically take your overall list and separate it and break it into smaller lists that you can use for analytics or sending. In this case, I have these lists that are made called Instagram subs. These are all users that came from Instagram. I can see their performance to ensure that my paid acquisitions are performing as well as they should be. If I click in here, it's going to zoom in a little bit. All right. When you go here, you can see the performance of this specific audience. And if I go to configure, you can see the settings that I did to set this up. I'm not going to go into tons of detail. This is a very powerful feature in terms of the conditions that you can use. It's literally any interaction that they've had with the newsletter. But in this case, I said I want to use the UTM source and medium to identify Instagram users and create a segment from that. And perhaps we can drop the documentation to segmentation there. Automations I also mentioned automations earlier is creating a welcome series. So if you do want more emails than just one autoresponder, you would use automations for that. Similar to segmentation, automations is an infinitely customizable tool. You can trigger based on virtually any interaction a user takes within beehiiv, and using our API to automation feature, you could literally have somebody enter an automation using any kind of external tool as well. In this case, very simple. When they sign up, they're going to immediately receive this email, and then we could add a time delay of X days, and then you can add another email here. I've already added the other email here. So time delay, these are just inactive. That's why they're all gray. Wait 3 days, send an email. Wait another 2 days, check a true or false statement, and then based on whether the conditions are going to go down a different path. Again, very advanced, very powerful tool. We have a ton of documentation, a ton of videos about this for specific use cases. I'm happy to answer specific questions, but sometimes it can get very specific, kind of in the weeds around the specific use cases that someone might have. Awesome. So polls, I showed this in the email itself, but are great ways to both collect feedback around the quality and satisfaction of a newsletter, which helps you refine and make your newsletter better. You can see here that I have these questions when I send out a post and collecting feedback. You can see the posts in which I've used that poll and then the results here. You can also use a different type of poll. These are completely flexible. When you create a new poll, it can literally be any question, any answers. I just use these for customer satisfaction assessment. And this is going to be what's called a survey poll. Wait, I don't actually think we call it a survey poll because we have something called surveys. What do we call it? Oh, poll style default. What do we call it? Voting poll. So this is going to be a voting poll. The other type of poll we have is called a trivia poll. The voting poll will literally just show those different bar histograms of what people have chosen. The trivia style poll is different in that you have a correct answer. And if somebody clicks the right answer, it's going to say, great, you chose the correct answer. And if they didn't choose the right answer, it's going to say, no, this wasn't the right answer. This was the right answer. So provide some engagement, ways to make your newsletter a little bit more interactive. One of my favorite features, and I think one of the most kind of underrated, underutilized features, there are so many benefits to using polls, between getting satisfaction and knowing what content resonates, using them to perhaps ask what kind of content users want to read more about or hear more about, or what type of lead magnets they should make. You can deploy those. The ability to basically drive more engagement and better placement in the inbox, because users clicking these polls shows inboxes that they're engaging with your content, which means you're going to show up in their main inbox more often, creates engagement with the user so they feel like they're part of the story. And among all of these benefits, you can also share these results really easily. So say you're taking some sort of voting poll, you can then go to social media and I click that share results button. So if I go to any of these platforms, I can just Command V to paste it, and it's going to give me this Wordle style breakdown of the results. And so you can create social media content that is completely unique to your newsletter. Literally anybody who's publishing a newsletter, I recommend that they use polls in every single post. If they're not, they're leaving money on the table. Surveys are our kind of type of form. So I have this survey set up within my user subscribe flow. So as soon as a user subscribes to the newsletter, they're going to be taken to this subscribe survey, which is going to ask them a couple questions. In this case, if I click into the survey, it'll take a second to show up as it loads, but it's going to ask them a series of questions. What's your first name? What gender do you identify as? What's your dream vacation destination? And so I use those three things. I use name to personalize. I use gender for ad reasons so that I can basically share with advertisers the breakdown in gender disparity. And then I use the where's your dream vacation destination as a way to connect and basically understand what to write about. Because then I know that if I write about certain content, it's going to get engagement because people have asked for it. One of the coolest uses of this I've seen is my boss runs a newsletter called Big Desk Energy. He basically asks in the survey, what is something you want to have achieved looking back? If you look back in a year, what is something you want to have achieved? And he then sets up an automation that basically says, hey, a year ago, I asked what you want to achieve. I'd love to hear whether you achieve that goal or not. And it actually has the goal. It's a year ago you said you wanted to, and it has that, what they typed in. I'm curious if you have achieved that goal, and then invites them to literally personally respond back to him. And it's such a powerful thing. It creates this sense of like engagement, and people will literally respond back and saying, incredibly, yes, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I had achieved this big goal. And it's just such a really powerful thing that makes it feel very personal. So that's a way to combine surveys with automations to create some really cool experiences. So exiting here, moving to subscribe forms. If you have a third-party site and you want to embed it, you want to collect subscribers on your third-party website, you can use any of these embed form styles. This one's the most popular, the slim embed. This allows users to type their email in, and you can collect their emails directly in beehiiv. No need for the API, no need for webhooks or Make or Zapier. I do recommend, if you do set this up on a third-party site, deploy this attribution tracking script through something like Google Tag Manager, so that when a user submits their information, we can collect their UTM parameters like organic Google, so we can see they came from search engine. If they came from an ad or something like that, we can collect all that, but you have to have the attribution tracking script set up. Moving from audience to our growth features, referral program is a tool that we launched with. This allows you to very quickly and easily set up a rewards program for people who refer and spread the word of your newsletter. In this case, I have a 4-tier referral program set up with 1, 3, 10, and 20 referral milestones. If I click into, show you what it looks like live. So if I come to, got to do a preview of, cool. So come to this published post. And if I go to the overview, I think the overview is that's the web audience. No, this is the email version. This is my referral program widget here, which is saying, hey, share the newsletter. You have 0 referrals. I've deployed this in a custom way. Let me actually go back to this post. Let's go here. Custom implementation, just using custom fields to do it. But by default, if you use like the referral program widget, if I go to preview, because I had that setting set to premium subscribers. That's weird. Oh, because it's showing to a premium subscriber. That's weird. Okay. Anyway, we'll go back here. I don't want to. There's something going on with the way that I set the visibility settings. I don't want to troubleshoot that right now. But either way, if I go to the growth settings and back to referral program, I can just jump in here and show you what it looks like. So if I come in here, I have this image that basically cycles through all of the different rewards. So when a user receives the email, it'll say, you have 0 referrals. You are 1 away from receiving a year of premium access. And then if they have 2, it says, you have 2 referrals. You are 1 away from receiving a sticker, and so forth. And so we make it really easy to deploy that, very easy to manage this. Once you start getting people doing referrals, you have this fulfillment tab. So if you have physical products that you need to mail, it tells you who these users need to go to. When somebody hits a milestone, it'll send them an email saying, hey, congratulations, you've hit this milestone. It's a great way to basically say, hey, in order to get your thing, I need you to send me your address. Either you can collect that through a survey form through the platform, or you can collect it through like a Google Sheet or something like that. If it's a digital product, you can deliver it directly in that autoresponder email. And we have all the tracking and visualization of the leaderboard and how much growth has come from the referral program and so forth. Similar to some other platforms, we have a recommendations tool. So within this interface, you can come in and find other newsletters that may be similar to yours and recommend them. These are organic recommendations. And so these are just, you're not going to get any credit, like rewards for them, but it's great for adding value to your subscribers and showing some connection within the community. These are the ones that I am referring. So you can see that this Air Traveler Club, I've referred 92 subscribers. If I click on this tab to see who's recommending me, I can see that this newsletter, Own the Watch, has referred 4 to me. It's a great way to build community, free source of subscribers. This is going to pop up. This recommendation feature pops up after a user subscribes. So if I come here and subscribe, I'll show you some of these the flow. We're going to see this recommendation widget. So you can see where it says sponsored. These are actually going to be sponsored recommendations through our Boosts tool. And then below here where you don't see the sponsor button, these are actually the organic ones. And so a user can subscribe to all of them by checking this button, or they can subscribe to specific ones by choosing specific options there. Magic links are ways you can do collaborations outside of beehiiv itself. These links will basically, if they're placed in a partner publication, so say you're working with somebody who's using Constant Contact, you could give them this link, and when they put it into their newsletter, their recipients, if they click the link, are going to automatically be subscribed to your newsletter. They're going to get a confirmation saying, hey, you've been subscribed. But it's a super, super easy way to run collaboration and promotions with other folks that you may come across. Boosts are that tool that I just showed you a second ago. I'm actually not going to show much from this angle, but essentially, if you want to grow your newsletter, you can use Boosts to do. Basically, we run this marketplace where you create an offer, you set the exact cost per subscriber that you want to pay. So say you're willing to pay $1.50. You create that offer and it goes into our marketplace, and people who have related traffic or have audiences that they want to monetize, they will apply to that offer to basically be able to boost your publication. And so every time they send you a subscriber that ends up being engaged and active in your newsletter, you will pay them for that subscriber, but you're paying a set cost per subscriber. So this is in contrast to something if you were going to go to Facebook ads and you put $100 in, there's no guarantee that you get any subscribers, much less $1.50 each. If the subscriber turns out to be illegitimate, or if they don't engage with your newsletter, we will refund you those funds. So that means there's a probationary period where if they join your newsletter, but then they've just opened none of them, you don't pay for that subscriber. So incredibly powerful feature that is just what most of the people who are growing really quickly use, because it is incredibly, you can plan around it. There's no other platform in the market that will literally refund you if the conversion goals are not hit. Cool. So moving into our monetization features. Before we jump into that, I usually handle that last. I want to show our analysis suite. So under Analyze, we have a very powerful analytics suite. This is, again, part of our paid plan because it is so comprehensive. But if analytics are your jam, you can come in here and really see every bit about the growth of your newsletter and where your subscribers are coming from, how they're interacting with your newsletter, where your best subscribers can be found, the performance of specific channels and how they contribute to your newsletter as a whole, where people are coming from, where people and who is subscribing to or subscribing to your premium subscriptions. All of this data is fully exportable. You can plug it into tools like Looker, or you can use your own visualization tool if you're reporting for either yourself or a client or a partner or something like that. We also have these different cohort analysis tools, which show these like waterfall tables of how your users either have engaged with your newsletter over time. So active means just have clicked on a link within a month or opened an email within a month, and then click-through rate cohort analysis. You can see basically by cohort the click-through rate of the users that you're acquiring. So again, this data is a little bit funky because I haven't been running it super actively, but I can see the click-through rate from users over time as they've joined my newsletter. So people from, again, this is going to be a little bit confusing because I don't have like consistent cohorts, but first X days click-through rate by conversion source. You can see based on the first 30 days, my Instagram traffic, I have a click-through rate of 5%, for example, 92 opens and 5 clicks. That means when I acquire somebody from Instagram within the first 30 days, I'm generally going to have 92 opens, 5 clicks, which you can see that performance is a bit worse than some of my other channels because it's a paid channel. Usually paid performs a little bit worse than organic. We have similar reports for posts as well as clicks. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because we're coming up on time in just a few minutes, but you can see how your different posts are performing across a plethora of different metrics and dimensions. So you can see email performance, web performance, posts by date, posts by content tag, etc. And then if you are running advertisers outside of our network, a lot of times people have to report on clicks. For something like that, you can come in here and you can click reports of which URLs have been clicked the most, click-through rates, etc. So In the last 5 minutes or so, I'm going to cover our paid features. Within our ads platform, we actually have, I have one right in here right now that I can show you. We have the ability for you to run ads that our sales team finds without doing any extra work. It's just included in your subscription. You get paid real money when you run these based on, in this case, this would be a cost per click basis. But essentially, when you have an ad offer, it's going to show up just like this. I can click into here to view the details. This is going to be mockups of the different versions of the ad that I can publish in my newsletter. I'm going to say who the advertiser is, give me a link to go view them to make sure that they're cool. The cost per click, so I'd get paid $1 for every click. I can estimate my payout based on a couple different metrics around click-through rate. And then it's going to tell me when I have to run this ad. So I have to run it just sometime in January. And so to accept this, I would have to basically choose a date when I would want to send it and confirm it, lock it in, and then I've accepted the ad. Once I've run an ad, you'll see this on the reports tab. You can see how many clicks, how many opens, etc. And then your payments if you have clicks from them. Oh, I think that we'll go back. That is not a feature that is public yet. So that is ads. Boosts. This is going to be the other side of the marketplace. So we viewed the grow side before, but if I go into this explore offers tab, I can see the Boost marketplace offer. So this is my boss's newsletter. He's willing to pay per subscriber on the web, or if you send out an email that contains this boost, he's willing to pay up to $8 per send. And so that means if you send out a newsletter with that boost inside of it at a $2 cost per subscriber, he's willing to pay essentially for 64 subscribers per send. If you send more, you're basically getting a lower CPA. If you send fewer, you're just going to get paid that flat $2 per subscriber rate. But you can view by these different categories, countries, you can see who he's trying to target. And so if you find one that you are interested in, you can click here to apply. You want to explain like why your newsletter is a good fit, why you're interested. It usually helps if you have a sending history that's compelling to say that you're building a real audience and so forth. And you send that submission, they get a ping saying, hey, time to review some applications. If they accept you, that is when your offer then shows up on that subscribe screen that we saw earlier. But you can see there's literally hundreds, there might even be thousands, but yeah, you can basically explore those. And lastly, paid subscriptions allow you to run premium content through your newsletter. We've seen a couple different examples of this already through this presentation, but essentially I have a paid tier here that is $199 per month or $19.99 per year. That lives, actually I'll just finish up that subscribe series. So go here. I'm going to not subscribe to anyone. This is the subscriber flow that I described earlier. So I do the recommendations and boosts. This is the survey. I'm just going to do EJ. I've already filled this out a million times, but I always say Tokyo here. And then after the survey, it's going to take you to, if you have a premium subscription and if you turn it on, the option for basically upselling users to your premium plan. So that's what this looks like here. This is the screen. It's at the upgrade page. You can just find it anytime there. Say maybe later. And then if you are running multiple newsletters of your own, you can have a screen where you say, hey, you might also be interested in signing up for these other newsletters. And then that's the end of the subscribe flow. I have people redirect back to the homepage, but you can actually send them anywhere that you want. But just finishing out that experience, you could see basically the offer for that premium subscription. You can create offers around like promotions. You can say 1 year for free. You can say 7-day trial if you pay for a year, et cetera. You can create any kind of scheme that you want there. We do have those paywalls within the platform to promote your newsletter. So you can have intro content and then you can put a paywall so only premium subscribers can keep reading. It's going to give everyone else a warning to sign up in order to keep reading. You can, if you have users who are trialing, they can trial without a credit card to make it easier to convert them. In this case, they would want to get an upsell email, say, hey, add your credit card. You can give away complimentary access. We showed that button to assign complimentary access earlier. There's just so much you can do. This is a product that's very fully functional, competes with companies like Patreon and Memberful, and it comes built into your newsletter subscription. There is no fee on any of these subscriptions, zero. It's just you pay your fee, one flat fee, and you can make as much money. If you make $1 million with your premium subscriptions, we take 0%. It doesn't matter. So really compelling offer. We're one of the few that operates like that. That really brings us to the end of the presentation, having covered those monetization tools. We have a few minutes. I'm going to rely on Tony here to triage some of the questions. And I will move my camera over a little bit so I can see the chat. If you have any questions that have come up in the last couple of minutes, drop them in the chat and I can address those. Otherwise, I will wait for Tony to give me a queued up Actually, he probably drops private chat. Yeah, sounds good. So Tony says he's been doing a great job of triaging the questions in the chat. I believe him 100%. He's the best producer, so I know he's been super helpful there. If you guys have questions, please drop them in the chat now. Juan is saying, what would you say the best way is to get some outreach if you don't have any subscribers to import? So I would watch one of our webinars on growth and basically address that. If you don't have any subscribers to import, and you're starting out from scratch, your goal is really refining your content approach, so that you're creating content that people find irresistible and that they basically can't help but not share, whether that's with coworkers, whether it's with their family. All comes down to the type of content you're creating. But when you reach that level of content market fit, people will share your newsletter and you won't be able to stop them. It's just like they will just feel compelled to, because the content will speak to them. That's when you know you've reached that content market fit and are ready to scale. Until that's happening, your only goal is to basically keep on working on your craft and refining your approach, testing, iterating until you reach that point. Oh yeah, we do have a call in 1 minute, so I won't be able to stay too long. Xavier, if you want to email me, if anybody wants to email me, it's ej@beehiiv.com. I'm happy to take any questions. The one thing I do recommend, this is not part of our free trial, but our paid plan comes with access to what's called the Hive, which is our premium community. It's nearly 3,500 active paying publishing beehiiv users. It's one of the most valuable places to be in terms of just interacting with people who are also newsletter publishers. We have channels for tips around monetization, growth, design. You can coordinate cross promotions. You can email one-on-one if you're new to the email space. There's 20 different channels. There's dozens, if not hundreds of messages all day, every day. And it's free. It's not an add-on. It comes with your premium subscription. So at the end of your trial, if you're on the fence, it's definitely worth it if you found this useful, because there's advice like this that's being handed around all the time from other users, from our team interacts in there as well. So I would recommend that. If you have any questions about anything we discussed today, please feel free to email me at ej@beehiiv.com. If it's a technical challenge you're facing, aside from Xavier, who apparently already talked to support, if you have a technical issue, the first place to go is that help channel. I'm just going to refer you there if you email me with like technical issues. But if there's something that's more, I don't know, if it's something that's relevant to something else, I don't know off the top of my head what, but if you upgrade and aren't added to the Hive for some reason, obviously reach out in that case. I can help you out. But yeah, Xavier, anybody reach out to me, ej@beehiiv.com. Always happy to chat or at least push you in the right direction. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. It means the world to us. We wouldn't be here without you. We're so appreciative that you would spend your time on this earth working with our platform and our tool. It's not lost on us. We take that very seriously. It's what gets us out of bed each day to build the best platform on earth. So we are beholden to you, open to any feedback that you ever have about the product, about the tools, about our approach. We want to hear it all. I want to give a big thanks to Tony, who's been impersonating me in the chat and answering all those great questions, dropping resources. He's the best. Another great example of the beehiiv culture, quintessential beehiiv man. He's laughing and it's making me laugh. So thank you so much. If you're reviewing this recording in the future, past EJ appreciates you too. And future EJ also appreciates you. So I hope you just always are full of appreciation and abundance. And we can't wait to see what you build. Have a great Friday. Have a safe weekend. And yeah, see you soon.